Greetings all, and welcome to Lucas Brews. In this month's edition of Forgotten Friday, where we cover something from the Korean War, we're going to be doing an inbox review of the vintage Hasegawa 1/72nd scale Grumman F9F-2 Panther, one of the Navy's most successful straight-wing fighters, and an aircraft that's become famous for being used as stock footage of aircraft crashing on carriers. So, without further ado, let's have a look at this one. So as usual, we'll start off having a look at the box, followed by the instructions to see how well they're laid out and how this kit goes together, and then we'll have a close look at the plastic parts and the decals. So on the front of the box, we have some beautiful artwork here of three Panthers flying over what looks like the Korean Peninsula, with various explosions going on in the background, and they've all got some very nice artwork on their tails there from VF123, and they're all carrying some rather interesting red painted rockets there. We've got the usual titles and the scale in the corner of the box here, and on the bottom we have one of the other schemes included, which is for a Blue Angel, which is quite a nice touch. On the sides of the box here we have just some repeats of the box art, and on the top here we have various ads for other kits in Hasegawa's range. Nothing on the back of the box, which is pretty typical for them, and in this corner of the front we've also got the price tag, which is $25 AUD, which is what I paid for this kit second hand from my local air museum. Opening up the box, this kit has something I've never really seen before, and this is a spare set of wings here. And obviously there seems to have been some sort of issue when the original wings in this kit were molded, so Hasegawa have kindly included a replacement set out of box, which is really nice of them. So I'm very relieved about that. The rest of the parts, though, are all in this bag here, along with the decals, which are in surprisingly good shape for a old Hasegawa kit. Then at the very bottom, we have our instructions, and we have a little tiny tube of poly cement, which I'm probably not going to use, given that I've already got a nice ample supply, and this might be a little bit out of date. Taking a closer look at the instructions here, we have a nice black and white rendition of the box art on the front here, along with a really nice bit of history talking about the introduction of the F9F Panther and its history in the Korean War and beyond. There's also some specifications in the corner here, which is also really nice. And then on the front, we've got our marking guides. So we've got three different schemes. We've got one from the Navy, VF123, which is featured on the box. We've then got a Marine aircraft from VMF115, and as mentioned, we've also got a Blue Angels aircraft. So a pretty nice spread of different aircraft, even though they're all in the glossy sea blue. It's nice to see that they've reflected it in both the Navy and the Marine service. And if I'm not mistaken, the Panther was the first jet aircraft that the Blue Angels ever used, so that is a really nice inclusion as well. At the bottom, we've also got a nice verbal guide about painting the aircraft, as well as how to apply the decals and some guides about painting. And then the actual instructions for assembly are located on the other side here. So for step one, we have a little bit of cockpit parts to add. We've got a main instrument panel and a joystick and seat, which get added to the base of the cockpit here, along with a optional pilot figure, which is a nice touch. We've got the colours listed here with both a name for the colours and then a little number, and we've got decals included for the instrument dials and the sidewall details. For step 2, we then add the cockpit into the fuselage half, along with the tail hook and the exhaust for the aircraft, and once that's done you can then join the two fuselage halves together. We've also got in this corner a more detailed guide on painting the pilot, as well as some instructions for if you're new and this is your first kit to sort of help you figure things out. And then moving on, we've got step 3 here, which involves adding the upper halves to the lower parts of the wings there. We've got holes here for our missiles. A more accurate term would probably be rockets, but anyways, I think you get the point. And then we've got step 4, which is missile installation, which consists of adding our wing halves to the fuselage, along with the canopy, horizontal stabilizers, the little intakes here for the engine, and of course we've got our nose. There's also a little bit of advice here to add the ballast, so make sure you definitely do that. I'd probably recommend adding it here as well, because I'd imagine you're probably going to need a little bit more than just 3 grams to get this aircraft to sit on its nose. And then to the side here, we've also got what looks like our speed brakes, along with the nose wheel. And then we've also got the assembly of the main landing gear, which consists of a strut, a smaller part here, and then a main wheel and door for both sides. And unfortunately, I've also missed the last step here, which is once again referred to as missile installation. And this is adding our missiles to the underside of the wings, along with the pitot tube, and then painting some of these smaller parts. We've also got a parts number and name list here, although there's no actual sprue map, so it's kind of semi-useful, But oh well, if it's your first kit, at least you've got an understanding of what all the parts are and what they're called. Moving on to the plastic parts, I'll open up the bag that they're all contained in. So we have on top here our canopy, which looks actually really quite nice. As you can see, there's not an awful lot of distortion going on, although there's a tiny bit, given that these parts are very curved. But they're pretty shiny, and they don't appear to have too many scratches or imperfections, which I'm surprised by, given that they've probably been in that bag with the other parts rolling around for quite some time. And despite that, they don't appear to have been damaged, so they look really quite nice and flash. Then for the top sprue here, which is molded in a dark sort of blue, we've got our two fuselage halves here, and we appear to have recessed details by the feel of it. They kind of look like they're raised, but I can feel a little divot with my fingernail there, so we've got some nice modern recessed detailing going on by the looks of things. And we've got various little access hatches, and generally the shape looks really quite good. I'm not a Panther expert, but to my untrained eye, they look pretty good. There's no real detail by the looks of things on the inside there, just some guide marks to help line up the cockpit parts. We've then got our speed brakes here, which look pretty good as well. They've actually bothered to drill out all of the holes, although there is a fair bit of flash that's unfortunately filled some of them in, but it should be reasonably easy to just get a little pin and poke them back out, which is cool. We've got part of our, I think, landing gear bay doors there with some raised rivet details on the inside, but nothing really on the outside there. Our front nose wheel doors there as well, and again they've actually got raised rivet details on the inside but nothing on the outside. Our seat here actually has some raised rivet details, and by the looks of things those circles are actually not ejector pin marks but actually on purpose, so that's interesting. I think that the Panther had an ejection seat which would look quite different, but it's interesting that they've gone for that kind of detail. Our pilot here appears to have been shot in the chest, as there is a rather large gaping hole where his lungs should be. But apart from that, he doesn't look too bad. He's sort of wearing the helmet and he's got his oxygen mask off with his legs and his hands sort of to the sides there. We've got our landing gear here, or the wheels, and they look pretty decent. We've got a little bit of raised detailing for the wheel hubs on this side, with recessed detailing on the inner side. Oh, and our seat's just fallen out. And it looks like we've actually got a very subtle tread pattern going on, which is a nice touch there. Our exhaust looks pretty good as well. There's a bit of raised detailing on the inner part there. Our front nose part here with our, I believe, 50 cal machine guns sticking out there. They look really quite nicely done, with a nice bit of recessed detailing there for the access to them. Our landing gear struts look pretty good, with some of the little brake details, by the looks of things, molded to them. We've got our main instrument panel with what appears to be no detailing on the surface. It's sort of just a flat one that you can attach the decals to. We've got what looks like our tail hook, which doesn't look too bad, although there is a ejector pin mark that's sort of attached to the end there, which will have to be removed. Our joystick, which is pretty basic, it's sort of just the general shape. Our nose wheel here, which actually looks pretty good. They've done what looks like some sort of spring details, as well as the shock there, which looks pretty decent. Then we've got our mounting points for our missiles here, which are all pretty basic but nice and cleanly molded. And in general, there are a few bits of flash here and there, but nothing too major. No, we've actually also got a bit of wheel well detail by the looks of things on the fuselage there, just for the nose wheel. And yeah, looking pretty good for this set of sprues. On our second set, we've got obviously our two upper halves for the wings, and then our defective main wing, but we'll have a look at the other one as it's probably a better example of what they should look like. We've also got our horizontal stabilizers there, which are a single piece for each side. Our main cockpit part here, which has the rest of the seat details there. So that's looking a little bit better. We've sort of got the footwells where your feet would go. And there appears to be some anti-slip kind of texture there around the joystick attachment, which is pretty cool. No detail on the sidewalls there, but there are decals included, I believe, to improve them. Our intakes here look pretty good. They've sort of molded them in such a way that they actually look pretty accurate from the front there, so that's really awesome, very nicely done. And in this corner here, we've got various smaller details, like this is, I believe, the sort of articulators for the speed brake. That's probably not the right word, but that's sort of the mounting points for them. These are the inner parts of the landing gear struts for the main wheels, and we've got a really nice and finely done pitot tube there. This corner contains our missiles here, which are the, I believe, 10-inch HVAR rockets, which look pretty nicely done. Definitely a lot cleaner than some older kits I've seen. A little bit more basic than some newer ones, but not too bad. And once again, everything for the wings has nice recessed details. Some slightly deeper ones here for the control surfaces, which I think looks pretty good. And on the outside of the wings, on our tip tanks there, they have also done recessed access hatches and details, so I think that looks pretty good, with a little bump here for the nav lights. For the underside of the wings here, we've also got some extra access hatches. No detail inside of the landing gear bay area, although part of it would be sealed with the doors shut there. And we've got these little holes here which you have to drill out if you're going to add the missiles. And of course, the last thing to have a look at in this kit are the decals. And surprisingly, for a Hasegawa kit, they appear to be actually in quite good condition despite the age of the kit. I've had Hasegawa kits that are only 10 or 20 years old completely yellowed their decals. However, these ones, despite being older than that, are in really good shape. In fact, I'm probably just going to end up using them as long as they don't disintegrate or anything. I'm sure the quality on some of them, like the main instrument panels and the smaller fine markings and maybe the Blue Angels emblem there, are a little bit blurry, especially compared to modern standards. But for the most part, it's all pretty cleanly done. The red and the white seem to have aligned pretty well, so they've done a nice job lining things up. And the decal quality looks, again, really quite awesome, especially considering the age of this kit. So, despite this kit being around about 50 years old, honestly, I think it still looks pretty decent. It's definitely a lot simplified in some areas like the cockpit and the wheel wells compared to some more modern kits, and the decals are a little bit old. However, Hasegawa have reissued this kit several times, including in 2023, which I believe is the most recent one, so those decals are probably going to be of even higher quality with some extra details. And generally, as a nice, simple build that's reasonably accurate with some good details of the Panther, Hasegawa seem to generally be really reasonable with pricing their reissued older kits, so I don't imagine they're going for too much more than around about the 20 to 25 AUD dollar market, like I've done with this second-hand one. So I think that's a pretty decent price. I do believe there are other more detailed Panthers out there, but if you want a nice, simple, fun build that has nice details, then I'd say you can't really go too wrong with this one. I'm very much looking forward to having a build of it, as I do quite like the early Navy jets from the time period. And seeing as I'm doing some 3D printed parts for the Banshee at the moment, I'm probably going to end up doing the same for the Panther, just to upgrade a few little bits, like the cockpit and maybe the wheels. But for the most part, looks like you could still get a really nice kit out of the box. And if you can get it for a decent price and you want to have a build of one, I'd say you can't really go too wrong with this kit. Thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel, as it really helps out. And if you have any opinions or experience of this kit, then be sure to leave it down in the comments below. A massive shout out to my wonderful patrons for helping me to fund not only buying these kits, but also the products I use to make them, and helping fund some of the time I put into these videos. The channel recently reached 3,000 subscribers, so thank you to everyone who subscribed. It really is amazing, and I can't believe I've made it this far now. I'm looking forward to continuing making videos, and you'll see plenty more coming in the next few months. That's all for this video, but of course, until the next one, as always, take care, and model on.